In a quiet coastal town in Oregon, the winds often whipped violently from the Pacific Ocean, and storms were frequent visitors. Locals had grown accustomed to watching the sky darken and the waves churn. Yet no one expected the kind of storm that would change the life of a small family and a blind dog named Shadow. Shadow was a Labrador mix, his coat the color of midnight and eyes that had never seen the world. Born in a shelter with a congenital condition that left him completely blind, he had always been overlooked. He was quiet, careful, and surprisingly strong. Traits that had kept him alive through the early struggles of puppyhood in the shelter. Staff often whispered that Shadow had an uncanny awareness of his surroundings, relying on smell, sound, and touch to navigate the world that he could never see. Yet, despite his physical limitations, there was something magnetic about him, unassuming presence that drew people in, even if they didn't realize why. One crisp autumn afternoon, Jenna Hayes, a single mother, walked into the shelter with her 2 children, Ella and Lucas. Their lives had been upended in the previous months. Jenna had lost her husband to illness. Their small apartment had been damaged in a minor flood, and the children struggled to adjust to their new life. They wanted a dog, not just for companionship, but for comfort, a living anchor in a stormy world. Among the usual energetic puppies bouncing around, Shadow lay quietly in his kennel, tail barely moving. The staff recommended several more playful dogs, but something inside Jenna urged her to approach the dark-coated Labrador in the corner. "I think he's waiting for us," she whispered. Shadow tilted his head as she knelt beside him, sniffing her hand and then pressing gently against her shoulder. The connection was instantaneous. "He's perfect," Jenna said softly. Shadow adapted to his new home surprisingly quickly. Jenna and the children made sure the house was a safe environment: soft rugs over slippery floors, tactile markers along hallways, and gentle routines that allowed him to navigate comfortably. Shadow followed their voices, learned the creaks of the stairs, and could identify the subtle sense of each family member. He didn't just exist in their home, he became its heartbeat. Evenings were particularly special. The family would gather in the living room after dinner, reading stories or watching old films, while Shadow nestled at their feet. He seemed to sense emotions more than anything else. When Lucas struggled with homework frustration, Shadow nudged him, resting his nose on the boy's arm as if to say, "It's okay, I'm here." When Ella had nightmares, Shadow would appear at her door, sitting patiently until she calmed down. It was during these calm nights that Shadow's instincts truly shone, long before the storm that would make him a hero. He learned to listen for the subtle changes in the wind and rain, alerting the family by quietly moving closer when a storm approached. The children would laugh as he barked softly at the window, warning them before Jenna even glanced outside. Then came the night that tested everything. It was early winter. The wind howled, and sheets of rain lashed against the windows. The ocean's waves collided violently with the cliffs nearby, sending mist into the streets. The lights flickered and then went out. Jenna had just finished tucking the children into bed when she noticed a large limb from a nearby tree cracking dangerously in the wind. Before she could react, a thunderclap shook the house. Shadow sprang into action. He padded quickly to Jenna, barking urgently, nudging her arm. The children woke, frightened by the storm's roar, and cried out for help. Shadow barked again, circling the family, guiding them toward the safest part of the house, the small closet beneath the stairs. Jenna hesitated, but Shadow pressed forward, moving decisively. He gently bumped Ella and Lucas, guiding them step by step as the branch fell outside, smashing against the living room wall with a deafening crack. The storm raged for hours, yet Shadow never left their side. He moved instinctively, ensuring the children were calm. Jenna remained seated, and no one was in harm's way. The wind shrieked, the rain pounded, and the small family huddled together, relying entirely on their brave dog to navigate the chaos. By dawn, the storm had passed. The branch had shattered part of the living room, but everyone was safe. Jenna hugged Shadow tightly, her heart full of gratitude. "You saved us," she whispered into his fur. He licked her face, tail wagging gently, eyes calm and steady, as if to say, "It's what I was born to do." Word spread quickly through the town of Shadow's heroics. The local newspaper ran a small article, "Blind Dog Leads Family to Safety During Coastal Storm." Soon, neighbors and friends visited, marveling at the dog who had accomplished what most could not. Shadow, however, remained the same quiet Labrador in the corner, unaware of the attention, motivated only by the desire to protect the family he loved. In the weeks that followed, Shadow's bond with Jenna and her children deepened. He was not just a pet. He was their guardian, their anchor, their guide through a world full of uncertainty. Each day they discovered new layers of his courage and intuition, lessons in patience, love, and bravery. Jenna began documenting his journey, capturing his gentle guidance, the way he navigated their home with such precision, and the extraordinary bond that grew between a blind dog and a family that needed him most. And though Shadow had never seen the world, he had opened their eyes to something far more profound: the power of trust, intuition, and unwavering love. The morning after the storm, sunlight crept through the broken living room window, illuminating the debris scattered across the floor. Jenna stepped carefully over the pieces of shattered glass, her breath trembling as she surveyed the damage. But her eyes kept drifting back to Shadow, who lay calmly near the doorway, head resting on his paws, as if he hadn't just saved their lives. Ella and Lucas were still buzzing with excitement. "Mom, Shadow knew everything before it even happened," Ella said, hugging the dog tightly. Lucas added, "He's like a superhero, a blind superhero." Jenna smiled, brushing the wet hair from Lucas's forehead. "He really is." Later that afternoon, Jenna's neighbor, Mrs. Hamilton, stopped by. Her raincoat still dripped from the morning drizzle. "Jenna, my dear, are you all right? I heard the crash last night. How did you all stay safe?" Before Jenna could explain, Ella perked up, proudly pointing at Shadow. "He saved us. He brought us to the closet before the tree hit the wall." Mrs. Hamilton gasped, covering her mouth. "This dog, he guided you, a blind dog." Jenna nodded. Mrs. Hamilton shook her head in awe. People need to hear this story, and people did. That evening, Jenna decided to share their story. She filmed a short video on her phone, showing the damaged living room and Shadow lying peacefully near the family. Her voice trembled with sincerity. "This is Shadow. He's blind, but he sensed something we didn't. Last night, he saved me and my 2 kids from a falling tree during the storm. I don't know how he knew, but he did. He led us to safety. He's our hero." She posted the video on TikTok and Instagram with the caption, "Not all heroes have sight. Some have heart." Within hours, the video exploded. People flooded the comments. "This dog is amazing. How does he know? I'm crying. Protect Shadow at all costs. Blind dogs see with their heart." And this proves it. By the next morning, the video had surpassed 3 million views. Jenna's phone buzzed relentlessly. Reporters messaged. Animal shelters reached out. A famous animal behaviorist emailed, requesting an interview. A dog food brand offered a collaboration. Ella and Lucas squealed as they watched their dog trend on social media. "Mom, even celebrities commented." Ella shouted. Sure enough, well-known influencers and actors shared Shadow's video with captions like, "Courage comes in all forms. Heroes don't need perfect vision." Shadow remained blissfully unaware. He simply curled up on the rug, thumped his tail when he heard his family's voices, and waited for belly rubs. But one message stood out, from a company specializing in assistive technology for blind pets. They wanted to gift Shadow a special smart collar, equipped with gentle vibrations that could help him navigate unfamiliar spaces more easily. Jenna wrote back immediately, "We'd be honored." When the package arrived, the kids tore it open with excitement. Inside lay a sleek black collar with tiny sensors and soft vibration pads. The company included a handwritten note for the hero who led his family out of the storm. Let this help him navigate the world he already understands so well. Jenna placed the collar gently around Shadow's neck. When he took his first steps wearing it, the collar buzzed faintly, guiding him away from walls and furniture. At first, he paused, confused, but soon, he wagged his tail and moved confidently around the room, almost as if he could see. The kids clapped, "Shadow, you're unstoppable now." Shadow's confidence grew daily. With every vibration, every soft guiding signal, he learned to explore new areas, the backyard, the porch, even the path leading to their mailbox. His world expanded, but so did his purpose. A week later, the town braced for another coastal storm. Warnings flashed across the TV screen. Heavy winds expected. Stay indoors. Secure all windows. Jenna swallowed hard. The last storm had shaken them deeply. During dinner, thunder growled outside. Shadow lifted his head immediately, ears twitching. He stood up, pacing slowly around the room. The vibrations from his smart collar guided him safely as he moved, but his instincts did the real work. He barked once, then twice. Then he hurried to Jenna, nudging her leg more urgently than before. "Kids," Jenna said softly, "finish eating quickly." Lucas looked up. "Is it like last time? Is Shadow warning us?" Shadow barked again, louder this time. Before they even reached the closet under the stairs, a massive gust rattled the windows. The house groaned under the pressure of the wind. Shadow pushed ahead, guiding them step by step, pausing only to make sure Ella and Lucas were behind him. Inside the closet, Shadow positioned himself in front of the door, body stiff, alert, protective. Outside, the storm unleashed its fury. Rain hammered the roof. Thunder roared overhead. Wind howled like a living creature. The children clung to their mother. Shadow stood firm, unshaken, and then, crash. Something heavy slammed into the side of the house. Jenna gasped, covering the kids protectively. But Shadow remained in place, barking sharply, alert, ready, brave. Minutes felt like hours. But eventually, the storm calmed. When they emerged, they found that the wind had ripped off a section of their porch roof. The debris lay scattered across the yard, exactly where they had been sitting earlier that afternoon. Jenna sank to the ground, hugging Shadow tightly. "You saved us again," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. "We don't deserve you." Shadow licked her cheek, his tail sweeping the floor lovingly. He couldn't see their faces, but he felt their love, deeply, quietly, completely. After the second storm, Shadow became a local legend. Neighbors shared stories of how the blind Labrador had guided a family through raging winds and pouring rain. The community, inspired by his courage, decided to honor him with a small ceremony in the town square. A banner read, Jenna, Ella, and Lucas attended, holding Shadow gently by his leash. Families from around the town gathered, clapping and cheering, while reporters filmed every moment. Shadow, ever calm, wagged his tail softly, aware only of the attention of voices around him. He did not understand fame, he only knew the people he loved were nearby, safe and happy. The local news covered the ceremony, showing footage of Shadow sitting proudly as the mayor pinned a medal onto his collar. Social media erupted. Clips of Shadow guided by his smart collar, navigating spaces with precise care, went viral internationally. People were amazed by the intelligence and instincts of a dog who could not see yet acted with the courage of a hero. Animal behaviorists praised Shadow, emphasizing how dogs' senses and intuition could surpass human expectations. Fundraisers were set up for blind dogs. Inspired by Shadow's story, Jenna received countless letters from families thanking her for sharing Shadow's journey. Children had drawn pictures of him as a superhero. Adults shared their own stories of courageous pets, and shelters named programs after him. Yet through all the attention, Jenna noticed subtle changes in Shadow. He was older now, his movements were slower, and his once vibrant energy had faded. The kids noticed too, whispering to their mother, "Mom, I think Shadow is tired." Jenna nodded, understanding that while his spirit remained, his body was aging. One evening, several months later, a violent coastal storm hit again. The family was now living in a safer inland home, but shadows of the past haunted Jenna's mind. As the wind battered the windows, Shadow's ears twitched. He stood up, paws planted firmly on the floor, and barked softly, not wildly, but insistently. Jenna, sensing his unease, guided the children to their storm-safe corner. Shadow pressed forward, sniffing the air, nudging each child gently. When a loose branch crashed onto the roof, Shadow barked sharply, guiding them safely. The children followed his every move, trusting him implicitly. This time, the smart collar sensors malfunctioned due to the heavy rain seeping inside. Shadow could not rely on technology, only his instincts, and yet, he led the family perfectly. Jenna realized in that moment, no device could replace his innate wisdom, his unshakable heart. After the storm passed, the family huddled together, relieved and grateful. Shadow lay next to them, exhausted but alert. Jenna whispered softly, "You are more than a hero. Shadow, you are our family." Weeks turned into months, and Shadow's health began to decline. Vet visits revealed age-related issues. His joints were stiff, his heart weaker, and his breathing slower. Jenna knew that the time they had left was limited. She vowed to make his final days as joyful and comforting as possible. Each morning, she would sit beside him, reading aloud while he rested his head on her lap. The kids would stroke his fur, whispering words of love. They went on gentle walks in the backyard, letting Shadow explore the familiar smells and sights of their home. Jenna brought back his old toys, the ones he loved to nuzzle and carry around. Shadow's favorite moments remained simple: a quiet nap in the sunlight, a soft pat on the head, and the sound of the family's laughter filling the house. He never sought attention for himself, but his presence comforted everyone around him.